All right, let's go ahead and get started. So when I launch Maya, I'm going to be introduced to this screen. Now this area might look a little bit different depending on what you have selected here. And I never want to click on this stuff here. I always want to click on this one here, go to Maya, and you'll see why in a second. So if I click on go to Maya, it's going to go to Maya. And it might look different depending on yours is set up. You can go here and just go to maybe general. And now if I want to see the grid, I can just go to this and turn on the grid. Okay, cool. Now, you might be asking, why didn't I click on just like new or something like that? Well, I feel like what I want to do is I want to make sure that I set a project folder. Okay, so you can see here that I have some reference images that I want to use for this character. And I want to make sure that they don't get lost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Project Window, and then here I'm going to say New. I'm going to call this Character Project, and then I'm going to put it on the desktop for now and hit Select, and then hit Accept. Okay, great. You can see what that did is it created a character project folder. So if I click on this, it has all of these files or folders inside of it. Now most of these folders are empty, but since I'm going to be using these images for this project, I'm going to go ahead and put them in source images. Notice there's also one called images. You want to put it in source images though. So if I click on this, I'm going to click on these. I'm going to simply drag them in here. Now I have the front and the side that are associated with this character. So if I was going to transfer to another computer, I would just take this whole projects folder and that's what I would save, and it would bring all of the images along for the ride. Okay, great. Now I'm ready to start. So I'm just going to go ahead and maximize Maya. And if I go to File, if I go to Save Scene As, and you might be saying, well, Dave, this is silly that you're saving it. I just want to make sure that it's saving in the right place. I can see that it's Character Project Scenes. That's correct. So I'm going to call this Character _001. Okay. Even though it's a blank scene, I like to, again, get my stuff set up properly before I even begin doing anything. All right. Now we're ready to start. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go to Create, Polygon Primitives, Plane. And when I do this, I'm going to be creating an image plane. Essentially, it's a drawing or a picture that we can trace three-dimensionally. So if I click on that, I can see that it comes out at the center of the scene. Now, if yours doesn't come out like that, it may be because if I go to Create, Polygon Primitives, if this interactive creation is turned on, if I click on that, now watch what happens. If I go to plane, now I can draw and I can make it any size. Okay, I don't want that. So I want to make sure that interactive creation is turned off. Now when I go to Create, Polygon Primitives, Plane, I can see that it comes in at the center of the scene. Okay, over here is my channel box. I'm going to call this button 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if I'm on button 5, which is the channel box, I can see some different things. I can see its location relative to the center of the grid. It was born at the center of the grid. That's why it's all zeroed out. I can see the scale. And under here, I see inputs. Okay, so if I go over here, this is my move, rotate, and scale. If I scale this up, so if I click on this one, this is the scale. And I'm going to grab this center one and I'm going to scale. And I can see that it scales uniformly in all directions. I'm going to scale it so it's the size of the grid. Okay, roughly the size of the grid. And if I wanted an exact number, I can see that this is about 24. So I'm going to just type in 24. Okay, now that's 24 times bigger than it used to be. I'm going to go here under inputs. I'm going to click on polyplane 1 and I'm going to open that up and I can see subdivision width and height. That's how many divisions vertically and horizontally. So if I put that to 1 and 1, now I can see that it has no divisions, and that's good. So now I can take this plane and I can rotate it. And when I click on rotate, I can see that these kind of manipulator lines come up. And if I grab this red one and start rotating, I can see that it's rotating on X. So if I go like that, and if I type in 90 over here, that's perfectly 90 degrees, okay, from the camera. Now I can move this by clicking on my move, and I can move this up so it's sitting on the bottom of the grid. Then I can push it back so it's sitting right here, right at the edge of the grid. Okay, excellent. Now, to move around in the scene, I'm going to hold down Alt, middle mouse click. Okay, that's the wheel on the mouse. Alt and right mouse, I'm going to zoom in like that. And Alt and left is going to move like this. Okay, cool. So now that I have this plane in, if I wanted to create a second plane, I can just go like this. Control D to duplicate. And over here, this is my outliner. If I don't see the outliner, I'm going to go to Window, Outliner. That'll find my outliner. But I can see here's plane 1 and here's plane 2. So on plane 2, when plane 2 is selected, I'm going to click on Rotate, and I'm going to grab the blue manipulator handle, the dark blue one, this one, and start rotating it this way. And I can see that that's rotating on Y. So I'm going to type in 90 degrees. And now I'm going to click on my move, and then I can move this back and over. And now we have that set up right there. Now the key is to put the images on here, okay? And the images, I want the front view here and the side view here. And if you're confused, you can see here our cube at the corner. I can see that this is the front and this is the right side, okay? And this is the top of it, okay? So I don't get confused, I can select this plane here, and I could call this like front image plane. Then I can select this one, and I could type in side image plane. Okay, excellent. Now I'm going to go ahead and select this one, and I want to put the image on there. To do that, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to right click and hold. This menu pops up. I'm going to come down here to assign favorite material, Lambert. Now this pops up, and I can see that this is button 3, which is the attribute editor. And in here, I have some tabs up here. I want to make sure that I'm on the farthest tab to the right, and it says Lambert 2. Lambert is the name of the material. So I'm going to go to color, and I can see right here, I can map a file. So if I click on that, this pops up, and it looks kind of scary, but I'm going to go ahead and click on File. Then I'm going to click on the folder. And voila, because we had our projects folder set correctly, it brings us right to where we need to be. Because this is the front view, I'm going to choose the front, and I'm going to click Open. Now I can see that it's here, but you may say, well, hold on, Dave, I thought it would show up right here. Well, if we press 6, it's going to show textures. If I press 5, it's going to show shaded mode. If I press 4, it's going to show wire. 5 is shaded, 6 is texture. So you want to make sure that you have 6 pressed. So you have to go to your keyboard and press the number 6. Okay, great. I've got that image. Now I want to add another one. So if I come over here, I can right click and I can go to assign favorite material, Lambert. And I can see here's Lambert 3. I'm going to go to color. I'll click on that. This pops up. I'm going to go to file. Then I'm going to click on the folder. Then I'm going to go to side. And I'm going to click open. Okay, excellent. Now I have both of those images in. A few other things that I want to do is if I click on button 5 here, I'm going to go down here. These are my display layers. I can select both of these. So I can select this one, shift select this one, and you'll notice that it's selected because this green and white border, selection edge. Now if I go over here, I can click on the 4th button right here, and you can see what that does. It assigns a new layer, or it creates a new layer and selects, assigns the selected objects. So because those are both selected, and I click on this, it's called layer 1 right now. If I double click on this, I'm going to name it Image Planes. I'll click Save, and now if I hit the V for visibility, I can see that they're on that image plane. Okay. Over here, I can also do that. I can select both of these. I can hit Control G to group it, and I can double click on that. I can call that Image Planes. Okay, great. Now I can see that. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure that these image planes are aligned. So what I'll do, you'll see that I'm in perspective mode here. If I click on this one, now I'm in what's called the 4 panel. Now I have my top, front, and side. And by the way, I can move out, so I can zoom out by holding Alt, middle, and or right mouse button. You're not going to be able to tumble around, okay? But you can kind of move like that. And I can press 6, and that'll show my textures, okay? So what I want to do now is I want to make sure that my images are aligned properly. So for this one, and I can make this bigger by just simply pressing the space bar when I'm hovering over this. Now I can see that it's full screen. And I can see that the character's not perfectly centered. So I can simply select this image plane, and I can go look at it kind of closer, and I'm going to move it, and I'm going to make sure that it's right on that center line. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, good. Now I'll look at my other one. This one, obviously it's not going to be centered because it's a side view like that. But now I want to make sure that these are aligned. So I'm going to go like this, create polygon cube. I'm going to move this cube up, and I'm going to scale this cube wider. So I'm going to go to the scale, and then I can just kind of scale it like this. And you'll notice that the cube is covering the character. So I'm going to go like this, X-ray, shading X-ray. Notice that each one of these have a shading mode. I want to make sure that I'm in the correct shading mode. So now I'm here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and go to vertex. Now I can grab these top vertices, so I'm going to go ahead and click and drag over like that and move them so they're touching exactly the top of her head. Then I can go down here and I can move these so they're touching the exact bottom of her feet. Why am I doing that? Well, if I tap the space bar, go to over here, tap the space bar, go to shading, X-ray, I can see, if I zoom in, I can see that it's touching the top of her head and the bottom of her feet. And if it wasn't, I may have to move the image, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that they're aligned properly. Now, the other thing is I'm going to do a few more checkpoints. So for example, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to make sure that I'm in the modeling menu set, and I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. And if I click here, I just have to click, I'm going to click anywhere on this edge, but I'm not going to release it until I have it where I want it. And where I want it is right at the bottom of her finger. And if I look close, I can see that it's not close enough, so I'm going to hit Control Z, and I'm going to go like that. I want it to be as close to the bottom of her finger as possible, this lowest finger, this purple finger, okay? Now, if I look at it from the front view, I can tap the space bar, tap the space bar. If I look here, yeah, that's pretty close. Okay, that's cool. Now let's maybe do another checkpoint. So maybe like at the bottom of her chin. So if I click here, yeah, that's pretty close to the bottom of her chin. If I look here, yeah, actually that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm not really modeling yet. I'm just making sure that my image planes are aligned. So I feel like I'm pretty confident that they're aligned. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I don't accidentally move them. Okay, so I can select this cube. I'm going to right click, go to object mode. Then I can select the cube and hit delete. Now I can see that the image planes are on this layer. And if I hit V for visibility, I can see that they hide. And if I hit V for visibility, they come back on. But if I click on this one here, this first one will template it. Then this next one will restrict it. So if it's this R, now I can't accidentally click on it. So they can't accidentally move. Okay, because I verified that they're in the correct place. Okay, so that was all the kind of the technical setup. Nothing, I mean, not super exciting, but I feel like we're at a good point that now we can move on to the next scene. So I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to go File, Save Scene As, and I'm going to call this character _002.